Good afternoon, everybody. So my research was about using machine learning techniques to assist auditors in detecting financial statement fraud. So I did an overview of what's been done in the literature and what machine learning techniques that have been used in that area. So why is this important? First of all, because we hear a lot of cases, instances that managers actually are cooking the books. And this is a serious issue because there are estimates that show that this could cost around $572 billion. And this was back in 2008. So this number could have increased by now. So what is financial statement fraud? Basically, it is the deliberate fraud committed by management that causes damage to investors and creditors through material misleading financial statements. So it's basically management are intentionally trying to mislead and make their company look different than what it really is in terms of numbers and financial statements. Why this is important? Because auditors are, at the end of the day, they're responsible in detecting this kind of fraud. They need to make sure that the financial statements are free from any errors or any intentional fraud committed by management. And this is obvious in statement number 82. It says that when auditors plan and perform the audit, they need to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements are free of material misstatement, regardless whether they are caused by error or fraud committed by the management. So auditors need to make sure, and if auditors just rely on normal audit procedures, they're going to make their task very difficult. It's not going to be easy. And this is the case because, first of all, there's shortage of knowledge of the characteristics or the attributes that make these financial statements fraud and these are non-fraud. So how do we know what characteristics or what makes these data or this statement fraudulent and not? This is the knowledge there is kind of short. So that's a reason why it's very hard to detect this kind of fraud. Second of all, because these financial statement fraud these cases are not the common norm. Usually managers are good people. They don't try to commit fraud. So auditors usually don't have experience when it comes to detecting it. So that's another issue. And lastly, more importantly, managers, whoever trying to commit fraud or whatever person that wants to do something wrong, they're not going to make it obvious. They're going to do as much as possible, try to hide it and deceive auditors. So it's going to make it even harder for auditors to kind of detect it. So that's why auditors need to rely on more statistical and advanced machine learning techniques to assist them or help them in detecting financial statement fraud. And just this domain is kind of unique because it has characteristics like there's a high class imbalance. So the number of fraud firms are way less than the number of non-fraud firms. So this causes an issue. Also, the cost. There's a high cost imbalance. So whenever a non-fraud firm is classified as a fraud firm, like we get a false positive, doesn't cost a lot. It could cost some resources, but it's not going to be that much. But if an auditor classifies a fraud firm as a non-fraud, or we get a false negative, this could be problematic. And another thing is that attributes, or like I said, the characteristics are noisy. So if you want to know what characteristics or attributes that make this statement fraudulent and what in this statement not, it's not going to be clear cut. It's going to make it even harder. And the last thing, like I said, fraudsters, or the management in this case, actively attempt to conceal fraud. So they're going to make it even harder for auditors to detect it. So first, auditors to know how to be able to detect, they need to be able to distinguish between the data, authentic data and fraudulent financial data. And to do that, they need to know the red flags or the characteristics or risk factors that make these financial statements fraudulent. So first, we have the management characteristics, and these are grouped based on the ICPA statement 82 or something. 99? Yeah. So they group them these three characteristics for red flag. We have the management characteristics and their influence over the control environment. We have the industry conditions and the operational characteristics of the financial stability. So if the company, there's sales are slowing down or they have more incentives to change the financial statements or play with them, that's going to be a risk factor, red flag. And research has found that auditors or humans in general just rely on, do not rely on any other assisting activities like machine learning or anything like that, their chances of detecting fraud or deception is slightly better than chess. They only have a little bit over 50% detecting it. So that's why a lot of researchers or auditors have proposed using or attempted using different machine learning techniques or algorithms to detect financial statement fraud, and this is just a framework of what has been done. The first layer talks about the different classes, like classification, clustering, and regression. And by far, the classification techniques were the most ones used in detecting financial statement fraud. And the second layer is all the algorithms used. So we have neural networks, decision trees, and regression models. So I did a review on basically the 5 most machine learning techniques that have been used. First one was regression models, and this is the most popular one. They usually it's been used using logistic regression. So they can do empirical analysis with that, and they found it to be efficient. They can be able to detect fraudulent financial statements using regression models. And then we have neural networks. This is one of the advantages that's adaptive. It generates robust models, and it's easily can be modified in 2 training weights, like Professor Kogan explained to us in the semester. It's been found that it predicts the occurrence of fraud at the management level. So there are papers that show that. Then we have belief networks, basic belief. So these are found to be highly accurate, classified in the correctly classified rate. They're adaptive. So these are just some of the advantages. And then decision trees. These can be used with large data sets, easy to interpret and construct. But one of the disadvantages is that it has a high false negative rate. And this could be problematic, especially when an auditor classifies a non-fraud case or has a false negative a fraud case as a non-fraud case. So that's going to be very problematic. The last one was a hybrid technique. This is basically a fuzzy neural network. It's a combination combining fuzzy logic with artificial neural network. And why it's been proposed or it's been done, it's because they want to limit or reduce the limitations of these data sets, these algorithms by themselves, and try to exploit the different sets of features. So they want to minimize the limitations and try to enhance the strengths of these 2 different algorithms. And it's been shown that in one of the papers that actually outperformed most of the statistical models and artificial neural networks. So it has a higher efficiency rate. And why it was proposed is because they found that management is actually evolving in their methods of deceiving auditors. So they're trying new ways and new methods that normal machine learning techniques are not picking up. So that's why they need to kind of evolve and find more improved or try different ways of detecting this kind of fraud. So, and it's actually decreasing. It's been found that these successful detection rate is actually going down, and could be due to the management's methods is evolving, and like I said, in trying to cheat or deceive auditors in their financial statements. So that's why there's been a need to distinguish which algorithm is suitable, which algorithm will work best in which domain. So that's kind of research that needs to be done in that area. So just to conclude, auditors are facing evolving and increasing number of fraudulent financial statement cases. And that's why auditors need to rely on different machine learning techniques or supervised machine learning techniques to assist them in detecting this kind of fraud.
Questions?